Podcast on Power Talk AM 1460 and FM 101.1. Streaming worldwide on iHeartRadio. Jan Price talks to the movers and shakers in the film business. The Jan Price Show.
You are listening to The Jan Price Show, and today my guest is author Jennifer Chruchill, and we're going to be talking about her brand new book for children called Movies Are Magic. Welcome to the show, Jennifer.
Hi, so happy to be here, Jan.
It's great to have you on the show finally. Jennifer and I met in 2018 at the Turner Classic Movies Film Festival, and the moment we met, we had an instant kinship, and we have stayed in touch through the last couple of years, and again went down to Turner Classic Movies Film Festival again this year and just had a great time together. And at the time we met, she was in the process of writing her book, Movies Are Magic, and I'm so happy now that it's published to have you on the show.
So glad to be here.
Great. So let me just ask you, what was your inspiration for writing Movies Are Magic?
Oh, wow. Well, I have loved classic movies since I was a little girl, before Turner Classic Movies was even on the air, before Google was invented. I always say my mom was Turner Classic Movies and Google rolled into one because she knew all the old movie stars, and they would watch public television on Sunday afternoons, and she'd say, that's Cary Grant, and that's Katharine Hepburn, and tell me who everyone was. And so I've loved those movies for years and years. And then I was so excited when TCM came on the air, and I don't work for TCM, but the fact that they were showing these films without commercials, and there was a place to watch these movies 24/7. Robert Osborne was just part of my life in my living room every day, introducing those movies. And I realized, that there wasn't something to introduce kids to the classic film world. And you always hear kids say, like, oh, I don't like those old black and white movies. Yeah, they were boring. And so it was sort of in the back of my mind for a long time. And then 5 years ago, I had my own little one. So I have a 5-year-old, Weston. And it just really struck me that I wished I had something to share with him to help introduce him to these movies. And so I actually wrote the book and ended up putting him in the book as a character.
And he's absolutely adorable. I mean, totally adorable. Yeah, the book, you've really done a lot of deep discovery about the movies themselves. I mean, you did a lot of research. So how long did it take you to act? Because there's actually just wonderful history from beginning to end of how movies came into being, pretty much. So how long did it take you to do this research?
Well, yeah, I'm a working mom, so it was something I worked on for years and years just in my free time. And I kind of kept going back to wanting to tell the story from the beginning in of course, a simple way that kids could grasp, but from the fact that humans are storytellers, from, cave paintings to artwork to, the invention of language and the printing press. So I had a lot more detail than what's in the current book that I had to kind of pare down a little bit. Of course, I had a lot of people I shared the book with, and I worked closely with my illustrator, Howell Edwards Creative in London, and went back and forth and kept saying, what's the goal of the book? And the goal is to get kids excited about classic movies. And so I had to take a little bit of that long history that I had in there. I had a lot of stuff about vaudeville and things like that. And so the book that's out now, it mentions those things and tries to make that linear connection from just the beginnings of storytelling to their YouTube videos that kids hold in their hands and watch on smartphones these days, and help them see that there is a linear connection from those beginnings to the invention of still frame photography, to the invention of series photography, and then silent film. And so I end the book in 1939 with the big blockbuster Gone with the Wind, and the other big blockbuster in 1939, The Wizard of Oz, that, of course, had color. And just thought that was a kind of a natural stopping point. And I'm working on book number 2. So.
Good for you. Good for you. Well, yes, 1939 was the golden year for movies. There were so many brilliant, wonderful movies that were produced in 1939. So I think that was a good stopping point, because that was the introduction of color, certainly with The Wizard of Oz. How has Weston responded to this book? 'Cause he was with you through the whole process of writing it. And your son is absolutely adorable. So how has he responded to this book, and other children too?
Yeah, well, he's in preschool, so his preschool class and he were my guinea pigs to see just, are they interested in this book? Do they want their, they can't read yet, but are they interested if their parents read it to them? So, yeah, he has helped me sort of pare it down and simplify it a little bit where, mommy wanted to put in this and this and make sure that kids know all these factoids. And, I could see him lose interest. So I would kind of pare it down. Like I talk about what the phi phenomenon is and persistence of vision, and really wanted this to maybe be a STEM type book that teachers might grasp onto. But I pulled a lot of that kind of too scientific-y stuff out. I mention those things and have short definitions of what they are, because that's what allows us to see film and see moving images and see it as a story that's moving in front of our eyes, but really just a trick of our eyes in our brains. But he just totally made my day last weekend. There's a little coffee shop where I live in Sonoma, California, Barking Dog Roasters. That's where I wrote a lot of the book. And we were sitting down there, and Mommy was doing a little bit of work, and he was working on a puzzle, and we were splitting our croissant. And all of a sudden he looked up. He said, "Mom, do you have movies or magic out in the car?" And I said, "Yeah, why?" And he said, "I'd like to read it while you're doing your work."
Aww.
Oh my God. This made my whole life. So he actually asked to read it. So that was all I needed to hear.
That would be a wonderful mother-son moment at that point in time. So that is really a wonderful, wonderful story and a testimonial to the book for sure. Now, again, you go through the beginning of the history. Let's talk a little bit about the very first story about the horse's hooves. Do you want to share that story?
Yeah, and hopefully I say the right year. So Edward Muybridge, a lot of people know who that is. It was in the late 1800s. I won't say the year, so I don't say the wrong year. I think it was 1897, maybe. But he was a
1879. I've got your book in front of me. 1879.
Thank you.
You're welcome.
I don't have my book. So yeah, so he was sort of a Renaissance type figure. He was a photographer and an inventor and kind of a character. But Leland Stanford, out here in California, was a wealthy man, and there's some sort of bet about whether all four hooves of a horse are off the ground at the same time. And the human eye could not see this when you watched a horse, running around a track. So Stanford hired Edward Muybridge to find out the answer. So he set up a series of still cameras along a racetrack and had them set up like a tripwire. So as the horse ran, each camera was set off, and he got a series of pictures of the horse running. And in one picture, all four hooves were off the ground. So there was the proof that, yes, all four hooves are off the ground at one time as a horse runs. And that was, I think, one of the first examples of series motion photography. Kind of in my mind, it's like the first movie, because you can put it in a flip book and flip it, and there you go. There's a movie. So one of the things I use for marketing my book is I've ordered a bunch of these little flip books. There's a company that makes flip books of the Muybridge horses running. I think they also do one of North by Northwest. They have one of the 1933 King Kong. I think they're just on Amazon. But so I've worked directly with that printer, ordered a whole bunch of those, and I put the Movies Are Magic sticker on the back, and that's kind of what I hand out to people to promote the book, and people just love it. And it shows them, persistence of vision. And this is really how movies work. And it's the most simple, non-electronic, non-digital example. So I love handing those out. It's a nice companion to the book, actually.
Oh, it is, and what a wonderful idea. I mean, it's a great idea. I'm sure the kids absolutely love it when they're flipping through and can actually see the movement. It's a great visual for them.
Very fun.
Yeah. So how did you choose what stories and things that you were going to put into this book? Because there's obviously a lot. a history about movies, and you sequentially, tell the story of the beginning of filmmaking, which I find fascinating. As an adult, I thought this book was very interesting, and I'm sure that's the response you've gotten, because it is not just for children. I mean, there's a lot of wonderful depth to the stories that you've chosen to do. So what made you choose the stories that you chose? And then also, the second part of the question is, how have adults responded to this book?
And if you don't mind, I'll answer the second question first. Just because I've been hearing from a lot of adults that say, I've learned so much about movies, and who cares that it's for kids? It's really a great little intro if you're not familiar with the history of movies. And I've had a lot of people tell me, oh, I want to see this movie now that I've read your book. And when you flip through the book, you'll see that I make recommendations on like a recommendation of a classic movie to see based on what I'm talking about on a particular spread. And so, like I said, the book was about twice as long when I first started, and I had to pare it down. I was really trying to show some representative examples. I wanted to make sure I showed the diversity that was in film. There wasn't a lot of diversity, but there was some, even back in the beginning, like with women film directors. And there's a documentary about Native Americans that live in Alaska. And they had a lot of that stuff that I actually pulled out and saving for another book, because it was getting kind of too much for a child maybe to digest. And like I said, I wanted to stick with my goal of wanting to get them excited about movies. So I tried to keep that history in there and how films came to be. The first movies in the 1800s and the early 1900s was first, like the Lumiere brothers. I had to make sure I got them in there. Georges Méliès, who did the trip to the moon in 1902. You can just go on YouTube and watch that 15-minute or so classic film. It's just amazing. And so, of course, I had to put those in there. And then I tried to just pick some representative films of the decades up to 1939 and make sure I kind of touched on that, I made sure I got Fred Astaire in there and the dancing. That's something that my 5-year-old is very attracted to, is the tap dancing and the singing and dancing of those old films. So that's one great way to introduce kids to movies. And I'm going to turn down the volume here, sorry. That's really what my goal was just to kind of show a representation of, maybe a great film from the 1910s, a great film from the 1920s, one from the 30s, and then a couple from the 30s. And I did leave out my personal favorite genre of film, which is pre-code movies.
Yes.
So, any of your listeners who like pre-code movies will know why I left that out of my children's book.
Yes, that's a good idea.
So, you won't see pre-code movies, but I love them. So,
I do too.
So I tried to just get some of those things in there, and I tried to pick things that I thought would appeal to kids. I really wanted King Kong in there, but there was a copyright issue, and we couldn't keep we had a really cute illustration of the 1933 King Kong with him up on the Empire State Building, and then we had Weston, my little one, in a little plane flying by King Kong's head. It was super cute, but we had to pull that one out because I didn't quite have the copyright permission for that. So that had a lot to do with some of the decisions on some of the things I pulled out too. We had to make sure the Wizard of Oz illustration was reflective of the actual book, The Wizard of Oz, The Wonderful Wizard of Oz, and not quite an exact representation of the MGM film. So you won't see the Red Ruby Slippers in my book because they have the copyright to that. So some of the decisions were that kind of legal consideration. And then it was really just trying to pare it down to like the most powerful images and stories that would get kids excited and curious about wanting to see films. And, the other part of your question about adults is, hopefully it gets adults excited too. I have a lot of friends who have no interest in classic movies, so that's one of the reasons I love going to the TCM Classic Film Festival. Is we have a hashtag a lot of us use that go to the festival, My Tribe, because we're kind of there with our people, all the people who get it and love those old movies. But, it's not always easy to find people that love them, and so I just hope to spread the love and one of my movies, this is sort of off topic of the book because this movie's not in my book, but one of my movies I could show my friends to get them to be interested in classic movies is Some Like It Hot with Marilyn Monroe.
Yes, yes.
Wonderful. They say, I don't like black and white movies, and they're boring. I'm like, well, let's give the first 10 minutes of Some Like It Hot is a little dry, but once they get to the beach, it's just, madcap hilarity from there till the end, and a lot of people get hooked that way.
Yeah, still one of my favorites, and of course I absolutely adore Marilyn Monroe. Who doesn't? I think we all did. If you're just tuning in, you are listening to the Jan Price Show, all about movies, and my guest today is author Jennifer Chruchill, and we're talking about her brand new book, Movies Are Magic for Children and Adults too. So I'm going to go back because you were talking about copyright. I didn't even think about that when I was going through this book. So you had to go through a whole process with the copyright of some of these movies. So tell us a little bit. That's got to be daunting, I would think.
It was, and I'll talk a little bit about Turner Classic Movies' involvement in the book, the segue into that topic, if that's okay.
Yeah, definitely. And I also want to talk about Ben Mankiewicz too. So we'll go ahead.
Of course,
yes.
Let's talk about them. So Turner Classic Movies did not publish the book, but they were going to. They've been super supportive and wonderful. All the executive team at TCM, Jennifer Dorian, and just everyone who works there has just been amazing. And they contracted with a publishing company, Running Press Books, who actually publishes any book under the TCM imprint. And so we had lots of meetings. They were going to publish it, but they couldn't quite figure out what to do with a children's book on the Running Press end, and it's ultimately their decision. So it was super close to happening when they said they're just not quite sure what to do with a kid's book. I think they were wrong because it's been very successful, and we're still talking. They may possibly publish one in the future, but so it doesn't have the TCM logo on it, but they sell it on their website. They sold it in the gift shop at the film festival. They tweet about it on their TCM Twitter account. They're wonderful, super supportive, and they also connected me with Ben Mankiewicz, who wrote the introduction to the book, which was fabulous and has really helped get attention for the book as well. And his intro is super touching. So the copyright stuff was going to be handled by the book publisher, but I had to take that on when that part didn't happen. So I did get a copyright lawyer, and we sat down and went through the book, and he just sort of flagged things for me, and we did some research. And any movie that was in the public domain, we weren't worried about things that may have been remade recently. Like I did have a very obvious missing thing in this book would be our gang. The kids, the Little Rascals. Right, and so they were in there, but because they've made a recent Little Rascals film not that long ago, that one was a little dicey. So we kind of just went through and pulled things that we didn't want to be a problem. And I actually wrote some first opening spread is an image of Charlie Chaplin standing on Sunset Boulevard with a photo play magazine in his hand and an iPhone in the other hand, kind of showing the future and the past together. And so I was really worried about Charlie Chaplin being represented because I know they managed his likeness pretty tightly. And my lawyer said, you might want to take Charlie Chaplin out. You definitely should get permission, and it's probably going to cost a lot of money to get the rights for that. And I thought, you know what, I'm just going to take a chance. I wrote a letter to the Charlie Chaplin people in England that manage his likeness and his estate, and they wrote me back. They said this is such a wonderful idea to try and get kids excited about classic movies. No charge. Feel free to use his likeness. We love it. Just send us a copy of the book.
Great.
So I know. So there's always, all along throughout the whole process, there's been amazing little moments like that where people just go, oh my God, what a wonderful idea to get kids excited about movies. And pretty much everyone I've interacted with has just been super supportive and gone out of their way to help get the word out. And like you, Jan, when we first met at the film festival, you were like, what a wonderful idea. So, it's just so awesome to hear other people see how important it is. And, TCM sees the importance of, audience development and having a future audience for these movies, because a lot of us are getting older, and, we want to make sure that these movies stay relevant and that there's an audience of people who still want to see them.
Exactly. When somebody else who's not in this book that I realized, and you probably had some issues with, is Shirley Temple.
Yeah, we had a Shirley Temple page that we had to take out.
Problems with the copyright again, or?
Yeah. We just, no one said anything, but when we looked into it, we realized it would have been complicated. So
decided not to do that.
We won't go there. But, maybe in the future.
Yeah, try different things. And I do love the fact that you included the Nicholas brothers.
Yes, I'm glad you said that.
Yeah, I mean, they were just absolutely amazing. And I would think if Weston likes singing and dancing, obviously we have Fred Astaire and Ginger Rogers, who were the epitome, but the Nicholas brothers were the other, just amazing for two, the men dancing together rather than a woman and a man dancing. So how does Weston feel about the Nicholas brothers?
Oh, he knows who they are. We watched a snippet of, we call it the most incredible dance sequence of all time, and a lot of people believe that, and I think it may be from the movie Stormy Weather, with just the two of them, with Chad Calloway kicking it off, and then those two just dancing their hearts out and jumping up in the air and landing in the splits, and then coming back up out of the splits with no effort, or it looks like no effort, and I will show that snippet to people who say they don't like old movies too, and usually a lot of times you have to pull their jaw off the floor. It's like, wow, I've never heard of these guys, and they're just amazed.
They are.
So I definitely wanted to make sure they were in the book.
Definitely. And I think that's the thing. When you look back at these older movies and you see, first of all, when you think about how far technology has come in our era, and you go back, 80, or more years, 80, 90 years, and realize what they were able to do with not any of the technology we have today. I mean, it just blows you away. I'm always in awe. I'm awestruck when I see some of the movies from that era, from the 20s and 30s and 40s, definitely. But particularly the 20s and 30s, I think those are my favorite. I also have to ask you, though, you've got a girl crush on Jean Harlow. How did that start?
Well, I always it's going to sound bad, but I didn't fully appreciate Jean Harlow. I sort of viewed her through the lens of how she has been portrayed as just like a blonde bombshell bimbo, and I didn't give her full credit. And I was watching Dinner at 8, a couple of years ago, and it just struck me. I'm like, there's all these incredible actors and actresses in that movie, with John Barrymore, and they're just
stellar cast,
amazing.
Yes,
yeah, and I'm like, Jean Harlow is what makes this movie.
Yes,
and her, and then when I learned more about her and started reading about her, she was not that kind of person, which just shows her acting was even more incredible. She was her comedic timing, the way she carried herself. She was just a natural on camera and just brilliant, and I love her. And I think it was a pre-code movie, Red-Headed Woman, that they showed at TCM at the film festival, and she's just amazing. And then I also saw, I think it was last year or the year before, they screened Wife versus Secretary.
Oh, I love that.
Oh my gosh. And she doesn't play the bimbo at all. She plays a very serious, respectable part, and just to see that range, and I just have a new appreciation for her now that I've sort of learned more about her and watched her more carefully. And the scene, so Wallace Beery, that plays her husband in Dinner at 8, there's a scene where they're fighting, and it's brilliant. Acting, brilliant timing on both their parts. She's like, you old windbag. She's yelling at him. They have the most dysfunctional marriage ever, but it's hilarious. But her timing's great. You just watch her. You watch that scene, and you watch her flop on the bed and cross her legs with her fuzzy slippers on, and just the way she just carries herself. She just steals the show.
She does, and it was so sad. Her untimely death at 26 years old. Unbelievable.
Well, heartbreaking.
Yes, very heartbreaking, and she didn't have to really die. But we won't get into that right now. What I want to talk about is where can people get this book, Jennifer? Movies Are Magic. Where can they purchase it?
Well, of course, you can get it on Amazon. Just go to Amazon.com and type in Movies Are Magic. If it doesn't pop up right away, you might have to say Movies Are Magic Kids Book, and then it pops up. And it's also on the Turner Classic Movies website. If you go to TCM.com and click on Shop on the top right, they have it there. They've had to restock it a few times, which is awesome. And so, yeah, it's there. And I just want to give another shout out to Ben Mankiewicz for writing the introduction. He has a daughter about the same age as my Weston. I think she's a year or two older than him. And he doesn't talk about his daughter much when he does his introductions as the host on Turner Classic Movies. I think it's titled Primetime Host. He's basically the main host since Robert Osborne passed away. And you don't hear him talk about his daughter very much, but if you read the intro to my book,
you'll find out a little bit more. Yeah. Well, Jennifer,
yeah,
it's been such a pleasure
having him you don't see.
Yes, it's a pleasure having you on the show. Everyone, go look for Movies Are Magic by Jennifer Chruchill. It's a great gift, a great gift for grandparents to give to their grandchildren, and of course, a great gift for parents to give to their children too. You've been listening to The Jan Price Show, all about movies. Go to The Jan Price Show on Facebook to learn more about upcoming shows. And while you're there, please like my page and write a comment. And to listen to the Price Movie Minute movie reviews and to listen to archive shows that you may have missed, go to thejanpriceshow.com and also check out The Jan Price Show, all about movies on iHeart's podcast channel.
On Power Talk AM 1460 and FM 101.1, streaming worldwide on iHeartRadio. Jan Price talks to the movers and shakers in the film business. The Jan Price Show.
The Yozio Theater in downtown Monterey is now open every day, showing independent and foreign films. The Yozio Theater has new concession offerings, including beer, wine, hard cider, and their homemade Lush Slush. You can now schedule private event screenings for community charity events, birthdays, anniversaries, or just the fun.